In this video, I will be telling you what I will look for while searching for a Western chef's knife. Hello guys, I'm Chef Panko and I used to work in a French and a Japanese restaurant. Make sure to subscribe if you want to know more about cooking and knives. Before we start with the what I'm looking for in a Western chef's knife, let's start with what nobody should ever buy even when the knife is on a huge discount. That are knives with a full bolster. If you have been subscribed for a while, then you will notice that I never did a review about them and never will. My suggestion is to leave them at the stores and don't buy one. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about why you want a Western chef's knife. Now before you can understand if a Western chef's knife is for you, we need to draw out the strong points of a Western chef's knife and its intended use. This does not mean that a Santoku, Gyuto or a Nakiri can't do the same as the Western chef's knife, but by understanding why we look at the Western chef's knife, we are going to look at the most suitable task for the knife. Unlike traditional high-carbon Japanese knives that can easily corrode, rust and pit, the Western chef's knife has stainless properties which will prevent the corrosion and rusting. Not only is it stainless, the Western chef's knife is more suitable for heavy-duty work without chipping. Therefore ideal for most domestic use. Now let's jump right into the knife parts. You have the point, and under the point part is what I call the tip area or the front area. And then we have the heel, and the complete blade is what we call the cutting edge. The top part is called the spine, and in front of the handle we have a half bolster. You also have a full bolster, but that is something I will never recommend. And then we have the tang area, which we have a half tang or a full tang. After that we have the handle itself, made from all kinds of material like wood, plastic, G10 and more. That is what we call the scales. On most Western handle we will find the full tang handle, which includes rivets to hold the scales together. Now that we understand the knife parts, let's talk about how we use a certain part of the Western chef's knife. The point is used for delicate work like scoring and piercing through food. The front area is usually sharper than the heel area, and the reason for that is that there is a spine distal taper, because most blades taper in thickness from heel to point. The front is the thinnest, lightest part of the knife, and is therefore well suited for delicate work like chiffonating or cutting soft fruit and vegetables. The heel can be used for heavier work such as cutting through thick skin or chicken bones. While the Western German knives are thick enough to go through most bones, it is not a good idea to use it on any bone thicker than a chicken bone. Those tasks are more suitable for a meat cleaver that are designed to go through thicker bones. The spine is also important. While most knives have a squared edge, like the Swilling and the Wusthof, some manufacturers also have rounded spines, which adds extra comfort for people that use a pinch grip at the blade. Now onto the handle of the knife. This is very important, especially if you are a cook that works in a restaurant all day long. Handles come in different shape, material and sizes. The most common material are plastic, wood or composite resins. Common shapes are the classic or what I call the standard Western handle, and then you also have the ergonomic handles like a slight fish belly and a more rounded form. Or you have the new handles from the Wusthof Icon that has an upside down fish belly. Whatever the shape or size, the handle should feel good in your hands so that over time you begin to feel as if the handle is an extension of your hand. Most German knives are full tang. That means that the knives are considered stronger and more reliable for heavy work. The scales are made from different types of material, but each of them has the up and down sides. Wood is comfortable to hold but requires maintenance. Plastic and resins does not require any maintenance but loses the excellent grip that wooden handle gives. Now let's talk about the edge of a Western chef's knife. Most Western and Japanese fusion knives has a symmetrical edge, so sharpened on both sides. The difference between a Japanese and a Western chef's knife goes all the way back to the culinary arts of both cuisines. In Japan, food is often consumed raw or with minimal preparations, so its structural integrity must remain as close to its original state as possible. The sharper the cutting edge, the less damage is done to the cells that holds the ingredients together, and the slower the cell degradations that begins as soon as the food has been cut. And this is the reason why Japan has some of the sharpest knives around the world. Japanese Western style knives are usually thinner and sharpened at the lower angle, usually between 10 to 20 degrees, for a total angle of 20 to 40. Western chef's knives are sharpened at 20 to 30 degrees, for a total angle of 40 to 60. There's more to talk about Western chef's knife, but it is time to explain what I look for when I decide to choose a Western chef's knife. The chef's knife primary cutting style is the rocking motion. We also know that the chef's knife is more sturdier for heavier tasks compared to a Japanese knife. And the Western cuisine doesn't serve raw fish where we need the sharpest knife. But we do want to have a sturdier knife that can handle most tasks without chipping. The primary reason for going for a chef's knife is the durability and the sturdiness and low maintenance. And the chef's knife is labeled as a multi-purpose knife. The same can be said for the Gyuto, Santoku, the Bunka and the Chinese cleaver. Each of those multi-purpose knives has their own advantages and disadvantages. In this video, we will be focusing on the Western chef's knife. The chef's knife, also called the cook's knife, French or German knife, is arguably the most important tool in the kitchen. The chef's knife ranges from 6 inches, which is 15 centimeters, to over 12 inches, which is 30 centimeters in length. The 8 inch, which is 20 centimeters, is the most common length for home cooks. 10 inches, which is 25 centimeters, is the standard for most professional cooks. As with all knives, you should go for the largest knife that is not longer than your cutting board and the space that you have at home. I also recommend the largest cutting board that can fit in your sink for easy cleaning. Since the primary slicing technique is the rocking motion, we expect a rounder profile for the chef's knife. This will help with a smoother circular wrist motion while doing a back and forward movement. I also highly recommend the pinch grip for a chef's knife. Make sure there's enough knuckle clearance so that your hand won't touch the cutting board and prevent you from cutting. Also, because of the rocking motion on the thicker blade, I want to have a chef's knife with the spine distal taper, so a knife that is thicker at the heel and thinner at the front area. The thickest spine measurement should be a minimum of 2.5 mm, everything under is considered a Japanese knife. This will help with the sturdiness of the knife and adding extra weight in the back of the knife. Since I recommend the pinch grip, the point where you grip the knife should feel natural in your hands. The balance point should be back heavy at the cap or even more towards the handle. This helps with the natural rocking motion and helps you to go through food easier. That is one of the reasons why Western chefs loves a back heavy chef's knife. Since the rocking motion never leaves the cutting board, a heavier knife is preferred. As an example, here is the balance point of a traditional Japanese knife that is considered a middle balanced knife. Here you have a Japanese fusion knife, which is usually back heavy to accommodate the Western cuisine and cutting style. And here is a Chinese all-purpose cleaver, and this is a front heavy knife. And at last, you have the Western chef's knife. As you can see, it is back heavy but perfectly balanced for the pinch grip. The front cap of the knife or handle is highly personal, but I prefer a handle that is optimally designed for comfort at the balance point. A perfect example is the Wusthof Icon and the Zwilling. The Wusthof Icon is back heavy, but the handle design and balance point is optimally balanced for comfort and its intended use. As you can see, the new Wusthof Icon handle is perfectly balanced for a comfortable pinch grip at the handle. But if you are used to go for a blade pinch grip, then the new handle design is not beneficial. But handles like the Zwilling with a curved cap is also nice and gives extra comfort for the blade pinch grippers. That is something that the Wusthof does not have. Since the handle choices are a very personal thing, I highly recommend that you hold the knife in a store, especially if the knife is expensive. If you don't use or like the primary rocking motion, then a chef's knife is not the best option. And you should be looking at the Gyuto, Santoku, Bunka or a Chinese cleaver, since most domestic cooks likes to use a forward chopping motion. But keep in mind that the Japanese knives are not suitable for heavy duty work, since the blades are a lot thinner. So if you don't go through hard food and bones, then the extra tension from a Japanese knife is noticeable better and will suit you more than a Western chef's knife. As for the Rockwell hardness of a Western chef's knife, I don't want a chef's knife that goes over a Rockwell of 58. So a knife that sits between 56 to 58 is my guideline, while 58 is the best option and usually more expensive than a Rockwell of 56. So as a summary, you want a knife that has a round profile that does not give you a hard stop at the end. You also want a thicker knife for the extra sturdiness that is usually required for the Western cuisine. The handle options is highly personal, but over time it needs to feel like an extension of your hand. There should also be enough knuckle clearance so that you can cut all the way through. The Rockwell hardness of 58 is my maximum sweet spot, great durability, sturdiness and will be able to handle most heavy tasks without chipping. A Rockwell of 56 is the lowest I would go, and that is more for a beater knife. I hope that this guide helps you understand the purpose of the Western chef's knife and what you should be looking for while ordering one. Of course, I will keep reviewing knives on my channel so that you can get my in-depth review about a specific knife. In the description below, you will find a link that goes in more details about the different types of knives and the Rockwell hardness and core material that could not be covered in this video. If you have any questions, leave them behind in the comment section below. If you liked the video and I helped you with your journey in choosing a chef's knife, please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to know more about cooking and knives. Thank you for watching and I see you in the next video.